Before the revolution, there was the whisper. Before the main events, the sold-out arenas, and the demand for change, there was just the static, the hum of expectation. This was the era of the butterfly, an era of 10-minute matches, of models turned wrestlers, where skill was often a background thought, secondary to the glamour. It was a comfortable pattern. It was the norm. And then she arrived, not with the polish of a magazine cover, but with the worn-out Chuck Taylors of a fan. AJ Lee. She wasn't like the others. She was the geek goddess, the gamer, the comic book nerd. She was, supposedly, one of us. But this introduction was, itself, a kind of illusion. A link-up to the audience, designed to make us trust her. We saw her as the underdog, the relatable hero in a world of goddesses. We watched her navigate the backstage world, seemingly innocent, seemingly just happy to be there. But the smile, the skipping, it all masked something else. A blueprint. The WWE Universe saw a girl trying to fit in. What they failed to see was a woman analyzing the machine. She was observing the power structures, watching who really pulled the strings. She wasn't just looking for a match, she was looking for a foothold. And, to get it, she would have to link herself to the very center of the storm. Nobody believed the rumors were true, that this quiet, unassuming geek goddess could be anything other than a sidekick. She was placed next to the biggest movements, starting with the one that defined an entire year, the Yes movement. Her first major link-up, Daniel Bryan. On the surface, it was a wrestling love story. The awkward, undeniable chemistry, the shared status of being the underdogs. The fans embraced it. They cheered for this unlikely pair. But this link-up wasn't a romance. It was an education. AJ watched as Daniel Bryan, a man the system had overlooked, captured the entire universe through sheer force of will. And one simple word. She saw how a connection with the crowd could be weaponized. She watched, she learned, and she adapted. The pressure on her must have been immense, to be the girlfriend of the hottest act in the company. But every time Bryan's music hit, every time he pointed his fingers to the sky, she was there. Not just supporting him, but studying him. She was studying the ebb and flow of reaction. Then came the moment that changed everything. The grandest stage. WrestleMania. The good luck kiss. It lasted only a second. But the consequence, the loss, it shattered the illusion. The crowd didn't just turn on Bryan, they turned on her. The geek goddess was suddenly the scapegoat. The betrayal, the blame, it forged her. She wasn't just linked to Daniel Bryan, she was linked to his failure. And in that moment, she realized, it was better to be the one holding the hammer than the one getting hit. The shattering of that first link-up was deafening. The fan reaction was visceral. She was no longer the beloved nerd, she was the crazy chick. A label that the commentary team, the media, and the entire WWE universe would plaster onto her. A label that is so easy to give and so impossible to peel off. But what if that was the plan all along? This is where the story truly begins. Because AJ didn't fight the narrative. She embraced it. She linked herself to the very idea of instability. If they were going to call her crazy, she would give them crazy. This decision, this pivot, was the first true crack in the foundation of the Divas division. She was no longer playing by the established rules. The emotional toll of this must be considered. To go from being adored to being despised, almost overnight, to have millions of people chanting, blaming you for the downfall of their hero. It would break most people. But AJ, she seemed to thrive in the chaos. This link-up with Daniel Bryan wasn't a failure. It was a graduation. She had used the connection to get to the main event, to be seen on the biggest stage. And when the connection was no longer useful, when it became a weight, she cut it loose. This was the first time the universe had to grapple with a female character who was not a victim, not a hero, but a strategist. She wasn't reacting to the men's stories. She was creating her own, using the men as the ink. The Yes movement had given her a voice, and now she was going to use it to scream. Once she embraced the crazy label, the Linkups became a whirlwind. A rapid escalation of chaos designed to keep the entire roster and the audience off balance. She didn't just target another wrestler, she targeted a monster. Her connection with Kane was psychological warfare, pure and simple. It was baffling. She, the smallest person on the roster, aligning herself with the devil's favorite demon. The commentary was confused. The fans were perplexed. Was she his master? His victim? Or just toying with him? This link-up shattered the boundaries of relationships in WWE. It wasn't about love or romance, it was about control. She proved she could tame the most uncontrollable force in the company, and just as quickly as it began, she moved on. Next, Dolph Ziggler. The show-off. This was a different kind of power play. This link-up was about status. She aligned herself with the man who held the Money in the Bank briefcase, the golden ticket. She wasn't just a manager, she was a kingmaker, or perhaps a queenmaker. Imagine the backstage environment. The rest of the Divas division is fighting for a 3-minute match, and AJ Lee is in the main event storyline, linked to the Big Red Machine and Mr. Money in the Bank. The heat must have been incredible. She wasn't just breaking the rules, she was rewriting the entire game. This web of chaos, this rapid succession of powerful link-ups, was a message. She wasn't just visiting the main event scene, she was the main event scene. The men were simply accessories to her story, a concept so foreign it left the universe stunned. And then she went for the king. If her link-ups with Bryan, Kane, and Ziggler were tests, this was the final exam. Her connection with John Cena, the face of the company, the unbeatable, untouchable hero, the very center of the WWE universe. When AJ Lee aligned herself with John Cena, the entire system seemed to pause. It didn't make sense. Was she a hero now? Was the crazy narrative over? The media, the fans, we were all trying to figure out the angle. She played the part perfectly. The redeemed woman standing by the side of the ultimate good guy. It was a story as old as time. And that's why the betrayal was so shattering. The ladder match, John Cena, moments from victory, and she pushes him. The gasp from the crowd, the collective shock. It wasn't just a heel turn, it was a statement. This link-up and its violent end was the ultimate declaration of independence. She had used Daniel Bryan for his movement. She had used Kane for his fear. She had used Dolph Ziggler for his status. And she had used John Cena for his trust. She had systematically linked herself to every form of power in the company, and one by one, she had consumed them. She proved that she needed none of them. The emotional fallout was catastrophic. She had betrayed the unbetrayable. She had shattered the trust of the entire nation, the bedrock of the company. She was, without question, the most dangerous person on the roster, and she loved it. But her most explosive link-ups had nothing to do with the men's roster. The connections that truly shattered the universe were the ones she forged in her own division, and the most potent of all was the link-up she made with the truth. We all remember the pipe bomb, but we often forget her pipe bomb. The promo she cut on the cast of Total Divas. The moment the mask didn't just slip, she ripped it off and set it on fire. This wasn't a character talking. This was April Mendez. She spoke of the hard work, the years of training, the passion she had, versus the models who were handed opportunities for being on a reality show. This was the real hidden link-up. She was connecting with us, with every fan in the arena, every viewer at home who felt that the Diva moniker was a joke. She said what we were all thinking. The consequences of this must have been nuclear. Imagine the backstage tension. She didn't just break kayfabe, she incinerated it. She had called out the company's entire marketing strategy, its chosen faces, on live television. This link-up with the audience's frustration was a declaration of war. A war against the butterfly era. This promo shattered the entire facade. It drew a line in the sand. You were either a diva or you were a wrestler. AJ Lee had firmly planted her flag on one side, and in doing so, she became the undisputed and unifying voice of the voiceless. She wasn't just the crazy chick anymore. She was the leader of the revolution. Not all link-ups are about power or revolution. Some are about pain. Her deepest, most personal, and most hidden link-up was with the one person who knew her better than anyone. Caitlyn. They weren't just rivals. They were the Chickbusters. They were, for a time, best friends. They came up together, two unconventional women in a world of clones. This connection was real, and that's what made its destruction so tragic. The storyline of the secret admirer was psychological warfare at its most intimate. AJ didn't just want to beat Caitlyn, she wanted to emotionally dismantle her. She used their shared history, their trust, as a weapon. She built Caitlyn up, made her feel seen and loved, all for the singular purpose of watching her break when the truth was revealed. This was not a link-up for status. This was a link-up for dominance. The emotional weight of this story was heavier than any championship. It was real. We watched a friendship disintegrate. We saw the true, calculating coldness behind AJ's smile. This shattered our perception of her. She wasn't just crazy, she was cruel. This link-up proved she was willing to destroy anything to stay on top, even the last remaining piece of her old self. The geek goddess was gone. The chickbuster was gone. All that remained was the champion, a champion who had linked herself to her own ambition at the cost of her own humanity. The WWE Universe was heartbroken, and AJ, she just skipped away from the wreckage. But the most significant link-up of her entire career happened far away from the cameras, far away from the storylines, the scripts, and the arenas. The link-up with CM Punk. This one was different. This one was real. When AJ Lee married Phil Brooks, she linked herself to the single most controversial figure in modern wrestling history, the man who had delivered the original pipe bomb, the man who had walked out on the company, on the fans, on everything. The WWE Universe didn't know how to react. The lines were not just blurred, they were erased, and the consequences in the ring were immediate and deeply unfair. Suddenly, her identity was hijacked. Every time she walked down the ramp, every time she held up her championship, the chants would rain down. CM Punk! CM Punk! Imagine the emotional toll, the pressure. She was the longest reigning Divas champion. She had fought, clawed, and manipulated her way to the very top. She had built an empire, only to have it haunted by the ghost of her husband. This hidden link-up shattered her autonomy. In the eyes of the universe, she was no longer AJ Lee, the revolutionary. She was Mrs. Punk. This backstage, real-life connection put her in an impossible position. She was linked to the company's biggest star, but also to its biggest problem. She was caught in the middle. The pressure of that loyalty to her career versus her husband must have been suffocating. A link-up that was meant to be a private joy became her public burden. A real-life link-up has real-life consequences. The connection to CM Punk, the man who had left, the man who was now suing the company, it led to the inevitable. The collision. The end of AJ Lee's career wasn't a grand finale. It wasn't a blaze of glory. It was a quiet, abrupt, and heartbreaking exit. The lawsuit, the controversy, the link-up that was her marriage had become incompatible with the link-up to her career. She was forced to choose, and she chose her family. The WWE Universe was shattered. Utterly. The revolution she had started, the Give Divas a Chance movement she had championed with her pipe bomb promo, it was happening. The seeds she had planted were finally growing, and she wasn't there to see it. She retired. The silence was deafening. Her most powerful, most real link-up had cost her everything. It cost her the career she had sacrificed everything for. The fans felt robbed. Her legacy was frozen, incomplete. The geek goddess who had outsmarted the entire system had been in the end defeated by it, or so it seemed. The shattering here was the loss of the future. The what-ifs. What if she had stayed? What would she have become in the women's revolution she helped create? This link-up, the one to Punk, is the one that defines her absence. The one that left a void in the WWE universe that, for years, felt like it could never be filled. For years, the rumors persisted. She's coming back. At every Royal Rumble, at every WrestleMania, the whispers would start. The crowd would hold its breath. Nobody believed the rumors were true until the lights hit the ramp. The arena would buzz. One shadow appeared. The crowd would scream her name. AJ! 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 They were desperate for that link-up to be restored, for the geek goddess to return and reclaim her throne. But the ghost that appears, it's not her, it's them. It's Sasha Banks. It's Becky Lynch. It's Bayley. It's Charlotte. It's Liv Morgan. It's Rhea Ripley. It's every woman who has main evented a show since she left. This is her hidden link-up, the one that shattered the system permanently. She doesn't need to return, because she never left. She is the shadow in every revolution. She is the DNA of the modern women's division. When Liv Morgan held that briefcase, it was AJ's shadow. When Becky Lynch became the man, it was AJ's attitude. When Sasha Banks and Bayley main-evented TakeOver, it was the fulfillment of her pipe bomb promise. The crowd cheers for her, but they are cheering for her legacy. The greatest shattering of all wasn't her exit. It was the realization that she had already won. The link-up wasn't to a person, it was to the future. She had built the bridge and then let everyone else cross it. We look back at the title, AJ Lee's Hidden Link-Ups That Shattered the Entire WWE Universe. We were programmed to look for romance, for scandal. We were looking for who she was with. We were trained by the very diva era she sought to destroy, to define her by the men she stood next to. We were tricked, just like Cena, just like Bryan, just like Kane and Ziggler. The hidden link-ups were never the men. The men were just the tools. They were the rungs on the ladder she was climbing. Her true hidden link-ups were with concepts. Her first link-up was with the audience, the geeks and nerds who felt unseen. Her second link-up was with power, learning how to take it from those who had it. Her third link-up was with the truth, with the pipe bomb that exposed the system. And her final, most powerful link-up was with change itself. The WWE Universe wasn't shattered by her. It was shattered for her. She was the hammer that broke the butterfly logo. She was the one who destroyed the diva mirror. And in the shattered, reflected pieces, we no longer see a crazy chick or a girlfriend. We see a champion. We see a revolutionary. We see, simply, AJ.